Have none, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Second. The motion is second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 2, County Attorney General Discussion.
What would you like to discuss?
What do you got?
Well, I brought that lease agreement over, but I don't know if it's the same one that I just got the end or not.
I'm sure it is.
Okay. It's pretty straightforward. The way I understand it is you guys are gonna own that property down there, you're gonna own the facility, and you're gonna rent it for $5,000 a month to the city. And there's an adjustment, annual adjustment based on the CPI, up or down, it's probably gonna be up. The only thing I had a little question was, and I don't think it's a big deal, is 10B talks about on termination of the lease, all of the tenant's equipment, personal property, trade fixture, and lease premises shall be removed by the tenant. Well, I think Mitchell County's gonna own everything in there, right? So, if they put anything in, it has to be taken out, but since Mitchell County's putting most everything in, I don't think there's could be anything for them to take out, and I don't fully anticipate that anybody's ever gonna terminate this lease and they're gonna do anything.
Right.
So,
And I think, Mark, the clarification would be all of tenants' equipment, personal
Yeah.
property, and rather than
Yeah.
landlords.
mhm, yeah. Other than that, I don't have anything. We've got the property transferred into Mitchell County's name now, so as long as Tom's survey was correct and we have the right piece of property, that should all be ready to go.
The only question I had was under number 6, I think it was pointed out, as to liability insurance,
Mhm.
and they will be, Mitchell County will be held harmless, is what I understand,
Mhm.
in any of those aspects, so. So I can, at the HERC meeting tomorrow, we won't have to discuss that. It'll be an item, Billy, that county will not be having, we won't be buying insurance for liability. It's in their lease agreement, they have
Well, make sure there's a clear understanding as to liability insurance or property damage.
that's what it was.
In other words, if I own a house,
It says premiums on all public liability and fire and extended coverage insurance. And other necessary in landlords, and other costs necessary in landlord's reasonable judgment for the maintenance and operation of leased premises. Now,
the way I read it, that doesn't mean they're paying for if a place burns down, they're not buying that insurance.
I thought they were, that's what I asked, for the fire and, you know.
Well, and yeah, my sense would be, this would be like if I rent a home,
Okay,
I own renter's insurance, but the property owner has owner's insurance on the building. I mean, that's the only thing I can relate it to, Joel, I don't
Yeah.
know.
all right.
Yeah, they can't insure it because they don't own it. I can't insure something I don't own. You guys are gonna have, somebody, you can put the insurance on and have them reimburse you for it.
Well, then, do we need an agreement for that? That they will agree?
It should.
Well, wouldn't it be just part of the, I don't know. That's why we're talking about this and not passing, not passing it till later.
It should be in there. To make it clear, it
Because
needs
I
to
talked
be
to
in there.
Judy, and it's gonna cost us $30,000 a year to cover that building.
For what? because she might have been giving you the quote for
I just based
liability.
it on, I based it on the $9 million we're gonna have in equipment, buildings.
Okay, but she could have been giving you a quote on liability, or property damage, or combined, or whatever.
But I told her, I said, well, if we get an E5 tornado comes through and there's nothing left to replace, we need it replaced. 100% coverage, you know.
That's not
replacement
included
cost.
in this.
Well, that'd be a stumbling block then, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I don't think it's a stumbling block, I just think it needs to be made clear, because what Rick said, yeah, we're gonna pay for that. I think we just need to have a provision in there that says,
'Cause
they'll reimburse you for any additional costs of
that
insurance.
was my understanding going into this whole thing, is that they would pay, they don't want to own that pre-treatment. They want the county to own that pre-treatment, well, that's part of the cost.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
And we're just talking the pre-treatment facility.
Right. As to the land we've got out there, she says we've all, as long as the county owns it, it's covered under the county's, right now today, it's covered. Well, there's nothing there but bare land. If somebody were to stumble on there and fall or get hurt or whatever, I suppose.
I think, I'll get a hold of Rick and just say, hey, we need or who's drafting the lease agreement?
But I think Ron initially put it together, reviewed by all of you.
Okay, I'll just
So-
do kind of a group email.
That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. As I say, I'm not sure which part it belongs in, but I guess it does belong in the lease rather than in the pre-treatment operating agreement, so.
Well, we got stuck paper that tall on this thing already, you know. Is that the right place for that?
In the lease? Yeah.
But this is the lease between the city of Osage and Mitchell County, not between us and Valent.
No. But this lease, yeah, this is a lease between Mitchell County and Osage.
Right.
And that's the rental agreement between the pre-treatment facility, right? And we're only talking about the pre-treatment facility, correct?
Right.
Well, I think that's the correct place for it then.
Okay.
Because it's Osage is going to be reimbursing us for those costs, Mitchell County for the costs, it's not Valent.
Right.
And then, of course, they're just going to pass them on to Valent.
So there needs to be a provision in here that we
In
can
the
pay
lea-
for the insurance, the cost of the insurance,
Yeah.
and they can pass that on to
Yeah.
Valent through their operating costs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
I don't have anything else.
Franklin County came up with their resolution.
See that?
Did you have a chance to look at it?
Yes, I did. I'm fine with it. I don't see a problem at all. Dave did not have a problem this last year. And if there is a problem, it can go away as quick as it can get.
Yep.
Okay. Are the board saying that I should go ahead and prepare a resolution concerning ATV?
Did you get a chance to look at it, Bob?
No, I haven't seen it, but,
Well,
I mean, it's like 2 votes is better than one.
well, no, but here's the thing I see so much out there. Others are getting to write, nobody else gets to. And I don't think you're gonna see a large influx. And Franklin County did not see, you know, it's not, it's just the, I think, and that was one of the comments that we had during this whole thing. They did not, the residents did not wanna see a county trail. They wanted to just be able to ride their units. And I thought that Franklin County hit every aspect of it. You can't ride.
The
on
only
hard
thing I would
surfaces.
disagree with them on is, well, 2 things. One, I'd let them on the Class B roads because, I mean, there's less traffic on them yet.
Well, what was the reasoning then, I guess?
I have no idea what the reasoning was behind it, but, I mean, our Class B roads, you can't tell the difference between a B and a regular road. I mean, most,
We maintain them quite
Yeah.
well.
yeah. So,
I guess that doesn't bother me at all.
and the other thing I would allow is, the very last mile before a town that you could ride on that blacktop, because again, you'd want to try to come in, if a town will allow it, like Carpenter, let's say, that you want to stop at the watering hole for a soda or that. I mean, if there's not a gravel road, you can't get into town.
Okay.
That would be the only,
And the other thing was brought up too, you know, so many communities have the golf carts. Has there been a problem with golf carts?
I haven't heard of any.
No.
Neither have
I think St. Ansgar has golf carts, don't they?
So does
Does
that-
St. Ansgar have golf carts?
Riceville has golf carts.
Riceville has golf carts also.
I've heard nothing but positive comments.
Right.
What roads are you thinking of then?
Just in gravel roads, just like it says on there.
Okay.
And then it tells if you live on a hard surface, you ride the shoulder, or whatever there is of a shoulder, till you get to that gravel.
Okay, so it's just gonna be gravel roads. Okay. Now, I'm just telling you,
Here it comes.
no, nothing. The law says if you wanna cross a, you know, a state highway, you've gotta get a permit. You have to apply for permits. Well, you know there's gonna be people crossing 218, there's gonna be people crossing number 9. Are you gonna apply for those permits or not? Or just say that they
Apply to
can't?
who?
I think it's the DOT.
Is there cost involved?
I don't know, it just says you make application.
but you'd have to do signage, you'd have to somehow mark. They'd only allow a couple of places. I guess I wouldn't.
Give them a special dispensation with that.
So it will be, it's gonna be an offense if they cross a traveled, public blacktop, or a state highway, okay? All right. I'll get something drafted up and email it out to you.
Yeah, I know, but I see others out there crossing those state highways, and they have a pitchfork in the back.
That's legal.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, that is a very poor law then, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if it doesn't
I think
treat
what
all
you're-
citizenry the same, then it's.
I think what you're gonna see here in the next year or two is the state will step in and actually come up with something that's gonna be more uniform and,
Well, they needed to, and they needed to do that a long time ago.
I'm gonna go back to what you say, always say, and I always say, you always say, why doesn't Des Moines leave us alone and let us do what we wanna do? You know, and then when they make a law that says, okay, counties, you can do what you wanna do, you say, oh, Des Moines, please take over and tell us what
I know.
to do. So,
But the trouble is, they always keep that one string,
I agree.
you know? Just leave us,
All in all, I think that ATV section's a pretty good section for the counties. It gives you discretion, and it also takes care of the liability issue. You know, the county's not liable. So I think it's a pretty good code section overall. Is it perfect? No, but I'd say it's pretty darn good. It's a lot better than what we had 4 or 5 years ago, if you want to let ATVs on your gravel roads.
well, this holds them right down to the law.
Yep.
It's 35 miles an hour, it's half hour before sunset, half hour before or after sunrise. You know, I'd say, well, that's fine, let's give it a shot. If we have problems, well, it can go away as quick as it showed up.
yep.
And the example I always use is, what if bicycles weren't allowed on the road now? And somebody came to you and said, let's let bicycles ride on the road. You'd be saying, you know, you're gonna have 5-year-old kids crossing 218 and, you know, by themselves without their parents. Nope, no supervisors in the world would allow 5-year-old kids on bicycles by themselves. But yet it's been that way forever, so we just kind of, it's fine.
Yeah, they're out there.
People worry, I think, too much about accidents and liabilities.
You're always gonna have that.
You're gonna have that stuff no matter what.
Yeah, if you have an adventurous society, I mean, like you say, accidents are,
We still have some of the finest automobiles in the world, and we still have accidents. You know, you still have everything. It's-
you know, I took kids up to Valley Fair last week, and I don't know what happened. Apparently some person got hurt or whatever on one of the machines. You know, they had how many people there to help and so on and so forth. But I mean, anytime you have an opportunity, I mean, there's gonna be problems.
That's
And it's just the nature of the beast.
That's life.
Anything else for Mark? I guess.
Thank you kindly.
You bet.
Your plate is full enough.
Sheila, item number 3 is targeted case management department update. We get to see you twice today, huh?
Lucky you. Or unlucky you, I
Oh,
guess,
no.
whichever way you want to look at it.
It's always lucky.
Once- Huh?
It's always lucky.
Nice. This is a projected cost report, and this is a sheet, it wasn't correct in there, so I just
Thank you.
printed it out like that, you bet. And that's what we're going to approve them this afternoon. You can chew it on that. And this is something that we have to do every year. And the projected is always due, well, it's due by the end of June. They prefer it by the 1st of June. And I was on vacation, so I got everything done before I went on vacation to have it done. So it's already been sent down to Des Moines, but we need to have a signature page sent down as well to accompany it. So just to kind of take you through it, the front page is just kind of the identification page, and that's kind of the final number. It comes out to our, with our rate being $110.47. $110.47. And then if you look at that, the second page, that shows the number of units that I am predicting, and of course, this is projected. And this present year that we're in right now is our first year that we have done it the way that we're doing it. A unit for us is a 15-minute unit. And so if it's anything, then they round. If it's 7 minutes or below, we can't count it as a unit. So it's 8 to 15, then up to 22 minutes anyway. That's the way is a 15-minute unit is what we bill. What we count as a unit is a face-to-face visit with the client or a collateral visit, which would be either a telephone conversation with the client or the provider on their goals, or a face-to-face visit with a provider. Some agencies count everything, that they could be counting, we could be counting documentation and all that, if we wanted to. And then the rate would be like $20, $25 an hour. It is just so much paperwork to do it that way, and I would much rather have the girls being out with the people instead of in the office doing paperwork. So that's why we are doing it this way. And that's the way that the state almost kind of prefers it, but other agencies haven't. So that is why the rate does look kind of high for a 15-minute unit rate. However, we do have just usually some months, maybe just a couple of units a month, you know, for our contacts. So anyway, so if you look in that second page then, the total number of units I predicted is 4,400 for the year, of next fiscal year. And I just kind of went by what we've been doing this year and kind of did it about the same, projected the same units as what we're doing this year. The Schedule A, we don't need to complete. The next one then, the Schedule B, is the staff gross salaries and step schedule and staff numbers. And that's, I just have to put out in all the staff who are employees of the county. And then this total number, it's $250,450 for all the salaries and that type of thing. And that's what's used for our indirect cost. You know, that the cost advisory services, they come to the counties and they determine what the indirect cost is of each county to help with case management. So at the end of the year, then when we get the actual cost report, we'll get back that money, and that's what we divvy up then between the two counties. So in July, we'll be getting it from the last fiscal year. And that's based on salaries. So if you go to the next Schedule C, then the depreciation and amortization, that's just for the equipment, and we've depreciated a lot of our equipment. So, and we just need one new laptop. There's laptops are pretty up to date. I don't foresee needing any other ones. Not that one won't crash, but otherwise that's, as of this time, the only new equipment I really foresee is needing. And then kind of the meat of it then is a Schedule D, and that's the expense report. And And again, I kind of go by, well, what I budgeted for the case management budget for FY13 and plug those numbers in. If maybe something in between when I done that budget and now has changed, I changed that, but it's remained pretty much the same. So with the indirect service cost, that came out to be 20,000 and some odd dollars. I projected that the total expense of the program would be $486. And, or $68, sorry. And then with the 4,400 units, it comes out to be $110.47 a unit. And again, this is projected, so then by the end of September, I'll need to have the actual cost report in for this present fiscal year. And then it's a cost-based program. So whatever we get paid above or below, we'll either get reimbursed the money or have to pay back money. Because this next year, we're gonna have to pay back quite a bit of money. But better to have to pay it back than worrying about making payroll, because that's what was the problem last year. So, and I feel pretty confident with this number as well too, that we'd be able to make it through the year and not have to worry about our income. Of course, things can always change, but. So that's kind of the cost report that we'll talk about today and then approve. Do you have any questions on it of any kind, or?
How long does it take you to prepare that?
Well, it depends. I always have to go over it about 3 times, and there's always something that I missed on it, but not real long. It's a template and this and that, and I just kind of go and put the numbers in, but.
So it's $110.47 for 15 minutes.
I know.
You're expensive.
Better than a doctor, I know. I know,
That's $440 an hour.
I know.
Are we seeing an increase of usage, or is it holding steady? Where
With
we
case management, kind of holding steady, really. Yeah, we're keeping about 130 clients, is usually about the average, to 135, it depends. We have quite a few referrals.
What's our majority of clients? I mean, what's the issues or?
Well, I mean, between the definition or the diagnosis of mental retardation and intellectual disability is probably the majority. We have children, a lot of kids with that, and the adults as well. Our child's mental health waiver, we maybe have 4 children on that. Now we've had a couple of new referrals. That waiting list is going away. They're able to serve the kids on that. And quite a few with mental illness, chronic mental illness. But the majority would be the intellectual disability.
Okay.
So. And the thing is, we may have the majority of people with the intellectual disability, but often it's our CMIs who require more units, just because of their needs. And
So what was your thoughts on the Iowa legislature this year?
well, at least
Did
they
they-
finally came to a decision and they decided before July 1st.
I mean,
Yeah,
are
Chickasaw.
you somewhat happy with how things turned out?
Yeah.
Uh,
Some changes needed to be made. Did you see that Chickasaw has decided we're going to be on the agenda then to join the CSS?
Chickasaw, Howard,
Humboldt
Cassuth.
and Cassuth,
There was one more. Nope, I think that's just the 4.
those 4, yeah. They weren't sure about Pocahontas yet, and then Worth Winnebago Hancock, Sandy said she probably would, but she's not sure when. So, yeah, changes on the horizon.
It's the only guarantee in life.
It is, isn't it?
Change is the only guarantee.
Yeah, yeah, so anyway, so then today too at the meeting, we'll go over the bylaws and that, and I did make copies for everyone this morning in case you didn't have one.
I think
Well, and I was hoping you did, but I made them anyway just in case you didn't
Okay.
have them.
Yeah, that way we all have the same copy.
Yeah, true. Then if you want to bring your projected cost report with you too, because that's the big thing that will approve. So. Okay, and then I have the expenditure sheets too, we can just go over that as well. Okay. Well, nothing else then, see you at noon.
you bet.
Okay.
So was Todd coming in for this, or?
Last week he said he was.
I thought he said he was coming back too, but I guess he didn't decide to come back.
Okay, we'll just go to item number 5, approval of the minutes from May 15th. 2012.
I read them,
I didn't have any problem with them.
so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of Tuesday, May 15th, 2012. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Hoaglander.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried. Next is approval of the claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with them. Second.
I didn't either. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Roll call vote, Hoaglander.
Aye.
Walk.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried. Okay, item number 7, approved Class C liquor license for Sunnybury Golf and Country Club.
Everything's in order.
Everything's in order.
I don't know, alcohol and golf balls look like a dangerous combination,
I could get hurt.
but I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Class C liquor license for Sunnybury Golf and Country Club. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Hoaglander.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried. Item number 8 is items of note, meetings attended.
I had none.
I had a community action meeting in Mason City. One of the big things that came out of that meeting was that Mitchell County will no longer have a Head Start program. For one thing, there's no place for them to go. They're getting, the school wants the room that they have.
Yeah, they need at least 800 square feet.
Right.
Handicap accessible with a playground, and
Yeah.
there's no place available here, so.
So that's was probably a half hour of our meeting explaining all that. So they need 320 students in the Head Start program for our area, and so they'll probably, there's a waiting list in Saragordo County for kids to get on Head Start, so that's where they're gonna go there. And then the other meeting I had was Prairie Ridge the other night. Pretty much standard meeting, same concerns. All got a employee evaluation we need to do on Jay, I guess. And we voted to, he's almost 23 years old and gonna spend $550,000 to remodel it.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's my two.
Yeah, I had the FMC Decategorization Governance Board meeting yesterday morning. And we just went over contracts and amendments, and we had 3 transfers, 15,000 from Second Judicial and 15,000 from District 1. And those could be used at the board's discretion. Let's see what else. The free movie thing will continue down in Charles City, expanding the funds there. They've had anywhere from 50 to 250 people in attendance. It's been very good for them. Short meeting. That was the only one I had.
Okay.
Item B is salary step increase.
Susan Mauer. Old Carol military aid 3. Effective May 11th, and the new wage would be $14.64.
So noted. Item C, discuss request for proposals for courthouse.
Just wanted to let you guys know that we received
15.
15, excuse me, request for proposals. And we are also putting together a group to look those over. That was at the suggestion of a number of those architects, and I always felt that was probably what we should be doing, so we're compiling those names, and I hope to have a list for you by next week. It's
Next
all
week?
on there. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Item D, transfer of funds.
We've got 2 of them. We got transferring from the local option fund to the general supplemental $100,000. And then from rural basic to secondary roads, $579,623. That'll complete what's in that fund for transfer for this fiscal year.
Noted. Public hearing's not till 9:30.
Would you like my discussion to precede that, next step, so,
Sure. Well, I guess it's up to the chair.
that's fine.
You have,
It's just an update. I'm not taking any
update on the
action.
wastewater treatment facility?
I don't have that.
Oh.
I wish I had that. We need, because we need the specs and plans as one of the next steps at some point, and I know
Thank you.
Ron did talk to Tom to make sure that he had no concerns about the pre-treatment. He's been involved in the discussions all along. But you have in front of you the documents related to, again, I just passed out the latest copy. The only thing, we're waiting for the development agreement, we need to make sure that we have the attachments, and the one attachment is the set of plans, and we're certainly not gonna duplicate that, but that will be there. We need, the cost of the 2 projects, and to see if Tom has anything else. As I said, I thought he was going to begin to compile your bid packages, so he would
That's what we
go out for bids. And then the only concern, I talked to John Danos this morning, and he has not heard back. The questions and comments that the BBC attorneys had were quite minor. In one case, they wanted to make sure the address was not transferred yet to this location, because of course it isn't up and running and things like that. But BBC is requesting that the city not consent to a transfer of ownership, just be notified of a transfer of ownership. And so none of us think that that's a deal breaker. And I will tell you, when I was working with ethanol plants, that was often the case. The ethanol plants wanted the ability to transfer, to sell the property, so that their hands weren't tied. And sometimes that was a discussion point. And to my knowledge, it always was allowed that they could do that. Because I think there's some wording about, I can't remember exactly the legal phrase, but it's kind of like for a good reason. You can't turn them down for a good reason. Well, then again, what's a good reason and all that. So John told me he would try to get him today again, because that's the one thing that we need to have that clarified. Are we going to agree to their proposal? If we do, then we take out 9.3 and we renumber things. The other question is, I see this is a 3-party agree, this and the pretreatment are three-party agreements between the city of Osage and the county and the company. And I think it makes sense that in the agreement you have under 9.2, it says the city, I think city or county.
Which one are we looking at?
You're looking at the contract for private development. On page 13. So in the way it was proposed, it was the city and county are notified of the action. For some reason, when they came back, they removed the word the city. And I don't know whether you care or Osage. These agreements were all approved last night at the Osage City Council meeting with the caveat that the approval was that it is approved in substantially this form. So the minor changes are not a problem, but if there are any substantial changes to any one of these three agreements, it will need to go back and they will hold a special hearing. The question about the insurance, Joel, that may constitute a piece that is a substantial change. So that'll be, and we have enough time, we have built in some.
Well, I emailed Ron about this.
Okay.
And I got it back from Rick Rose, that's covered under that 6, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and that's what,
Obviously it wasn't.
everything goes out early, so we hope Mr. Walk will comment early, and so but it isn't a big deal, it will be handled. It will be,
It's a cost.
right, it will certainly be handled. So, so those are the agreements. Again, if you have any other questions, the pre-treatment agreement has a blank about the pH, and I think we also need the specs and plans attached to that. So there are a few minor gaps on that. We'll be back next week with resolutions, barring unforeseen circumstances. We will be approving, coming to you for approval next week on those. The taxable bond, your public hearing's at 9:30, and then June 5th is the taxable bond piece. I was a little surprised, I guess. I thought it was the tax, I wasn't sure which piece. I was surprised it was that amount. But then the other actions, you're going to set the hearing date of the public hearing on the amendment to the urban renewal plan. And do you want to talk about that now or during the time, Chairman Morville, when you're
Probably
talking?
later.
All right. Then the other, so that action, and then we need to begin the special assessment process, which is how BBC will pay for the component that is not covered with their tax increment. And that too will need the preliminary specs and plans that you will need to approve. That's the first step. And then they will need to, BBC will need to petition that they're waiving some of the procedures. There are some special hearings that if you were doing a street assessment or any other kind, where there's lots of property owners, the 3 hearings, and then they have to waive the 25% limitation. Because of course, we're assessing 100% of the cost to them. So, are there any other questions I can?
Will we be seeing plans and specs anytime soon?
Well,
Our understanding was Tom was supposed to be
yeah, I
here,
thought
so,
that was one of the
yeah.
things Tom was,
Yeah.
because aren't you going out for bids on some of the pieces?
Right, you want to get the tanks and.
Right, I
things
mean,
like
that's the
that.
reason,
Kind of
one of the
materials,
reasons
so.
that you're
You-
going to
Yeah,
the
that's
June
supposed to be-
5th date, right?
Yeah, and that's supposed to be next Tuesday.
You'll have specs and plans next
Well, the
Tuesday.
bidding on that,
Although it is, okay.
that's what he had said.
Did he say he was coming today?
Well, that's what he said last
Well, I
week.
thought that's
Next
what
week,
he'd
he said
come
he'd
back
see you
and
next
Put me
week.
down.
But it was kind of an afterthought.
So the 29th,
That's what I had in there.
okay.
And then,
So,
public hearing next Tuesday. That's something different.
oh, okay,
That's not affecting it.
okay. So if you had any other questions on any of the agreements,
I've been reading them from the beginning.
I know, aren't you sick of them?
And
I
we
know.
appreciate your attention to the details, Supervisor Wilson.
I know.
Thanks.
No, I mean, it's, we knew it was gonna be an interesting journey to get through all of these. It's complicated and,
But all in all, so far, it seems
yeah,
to be
no, it's, I mean, all
smoothly.
things considered, it's,
You know, it's-
that's a tribute to, 3 good partners. I mean, they're, everybody's objective being the same and like I said, their concerns were, our list of absolute was 10 times that at this stage, so they were pretty common concerns, so I hope we can come to a resolution.
She's here. Hi.
We'll go up to item 12, Mitchell County Planning for Preservation Project Report from Leah Rogers, Tallgrass historians.
Well, I think you have a copy of it. I think we've addressed concerns, I hope, about the table and that, and hopefully the quality. Unfortunately, that was a PDF file that was provided by the state, and there's a compatibility problem with PDFs to document files. So I think we got it worked out to everybody's satisfaction. If not, the Historic Preservation Commission does have the original PDF file of that inventory as well, and can get it updated by the state as needed, but.
Before, a lot of the maps were just fuzzy, you couldn't tell what you were really looking at. Now they're fine, I think. You know.
Well, I think you might have had a photocopy of a photocopy too,
Oh,
so.
I thought it sounds.
I mean, it was a draft. The whole project is the first step for the Historic Preservation Commission to learn about the preservation process, to get some idea of what the historic resources in the county are. We did a extensive reconnaissance survey, driving on most of the roads of the county and seeing a number of the resources, the barns, the farmsteads, potential archaeological sites, and went through every town and former town in the county as well, and a really good distribution of resources. They also learned about the National Register and what it is and what it isn't, and what incentives, funding and tax credits come with that, as well as I put together the beginnings of the historic context for the county so they can begin to understand how the resources fit in, what is important, what isn't, what's worthy of preservation, what may not be, and to also give them a prioritized plan as to where they go from here. And one of the first recommendations always is for survey and evaluation, so that they do have a good inventory of the resources that is an update. The inventory that's already there, a lot of that's generated by transportation projects, and so they're often limited to a specific corridor or a specific community, and they're not as broadly general. A lot of them are bridges. They got inventoried as they got replaced. So the inventory is going to be a lot bigger once they're done, because we need a better understanding of what the rest of the resources in the county are. Some of the other recommendations that I made to them are things that they can do at any time, and have to do a lot with, assisting with the preservation education in the community, getting some resources in the library that property owners can use as a resource, holding workshops, getting the website up, disseminating information, as well as assisting people through the process. Doing things like annual preservation awards, working with local banks to see if low-interest loan programs are available, as well as other preservation incentive projects that they can do. But just basically getting immersed in the preservation process and getting going in the direction they need to be going. So hopefully this was a good first step and will generate good things to come. I want to say, from a perspective of a consultant who's worked with a lot of county historic preservation commissions over the last 20 years doing this kind of thing, the amount of response that we had from the public and the participation in it was really noteworthy and remarkable. I mean, every town we went to, there were groups of people who were interested in their resources and willing to assist with the project. And we don't always find that. So I think the people themselves are a tremendous resource as well. And they're going to health, they're interested in economic development with historic preservation, they're interested in tourism and educational programs. And the other remarkable thing, it's not just the older segment of the population, which is often what you encounter, because they might have more time to devote to that in their retirement. This was a group from young to old, and that is how you get a preservation program to really move forward in the future, when you have everybody involved in it. And from a perspective of having worked all over the state, this was a very noteworthy effort on their part. Do you have any questions? They will be getting a CD with all of the document files. They'll be getting all of the original photographs. And there's a lot more photographs that were generated as this. So they'll have a whole packet of stuff that comes with the final end products beyond the report. So.
Well, it looks good.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess I would just ask, we had a request, people already want to buy the report. So the cost was, I think, $10.53 per copy. That was the cost. We had it,
1053 was the cost.
yeah, and we had it printed at the Riceville Recorder, so Lowell can anticipate a bill.
Okay.
We had 20 copies printed. 9 will go to school and public libraries. And I thought 1 should stay at the courthouse. I was hoping if the museum remains able to sell things, it might be nice to have them sold there, because that way you're not tying up a city worker's time trying to, sell these things at the counter. But I just, because we don't really handle money, the Preservation Commission doesn't really handle money, we don't have a treasurer or anything like that, it would all have to go through the county. So you might want, and I thought then as we sell 10, we could just print 10 more. It was pretty easy to get it done at the Riceville Recorder. They were very efficient at it, and we could sort of keep replenishing the stock. There seemed to be a lot of interest. I did put it out at Maroa yesterday at our event, and people looked through it, and people wanted to buy too already, and I just said, well, wait, I have to let the supervisor, they belong to the supervisors, and they need to decide their process. So that's something you can think about, how you want to go about selling them.
I think you should go door to door.
I think if we make the public aware that they're, and then they can go somewhere to
Well, it'd be
purchase
nice
them.
if you, when you had these events.
At the
if you
museum
had-
or Cedar Valley out here, or
Yeah,
somewhere, library, somewhere
Right.
where there's more traffic,
right. Well, all the libraries will have a copy. We're just giving the libraries all a copy, so they'll have one. But for people who'd like to purchase one, like I said, I just wanted to bring it to you before I started selling them. Say, how do you want to handle that? Because they're your books. Our books, but you make the decision on that. And if the museum was willing to, I was sort of suggesting, because then we could just kind of direct people, they can go buy them there, as long as they're going to be at the CRC, I guess.
So how much would they be?
Well, I thought maybe if they have to give 25% of their sales, they might have to mark it up, but they could reimburse the county for the cost, and then once the county gets reimbursed for 10 books, just order 10 more. It only took a few days to get them printed. Their turnaround time was real fast.
They did a nice job.
So that was my suggestion, and then sort of free up county staff people from having one more thing they have to deal with at the counter. If we could do it there, and then they're all set up to deal with money. My suggestion, and then we could just tell people to go there and purchase them.
Should be no problem.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Okay.
Take 5 or... On the agenda this morning is a public hearing on general obligation county purpose loan agreement. So I guess we can open it up for public hearing. Open up the public. Any comments? Supervisors, any
I had none.
letters, written, oral, phone calls, nothing? Nothing?
No.
Yes, Dale.
Yeah, well, I guess I wanna know what you're doing. I read the newspaper story and it didn't make sense to me, and I talked to Jim and he said he wasn't sure either, so maybe you can tell me.
Well, we have to borrow some money to complete this wastewater treatment facility that is being required of us for the Valent Company Corporation, Valent Biosciences Corporation. They're in the county, they want to stay in the county. The county is going to have to build the pre-treatment facility for the wastewater. And we have to borrow the money for that.
Might state too, we are borrowing the money, but then we'll be directing their taxes, as well as when Kathy was here, we talked about that additional assessment. There'll be a special assessment district, so we can collect some additional revenue to them to service the county's debt deal. So we are using TIF really as a standalone project. The county will incur the debt, but then we will direct the taxes and some special assessments from the company to service the debt. So that it'll be a standalone project, not on the shoulders of the county or the taxpayers in the county.
So you'll be selling GO bonds, or in the amount of?
Is it 12.5, 12,500,000?
Votes that,
Yeah.
If the numbers.
part of them are gonna be taxable
So both some are
and not taxable.
tax exempt because they're two aspects of the project.
12.1.
$12,750,000. As it sits today, that could change.
Is that partly for the Osage?
Yes.
Okay.
People-
The two
That's the
combined
difference between the taxable and the tax exempt.
Okay.
This out here,
is 9.
Taxable.
those out there are non-tax, or
Tax
tax
exempt.
exempt, excuse me. So if you bought those bonds out there, the earnings you made on those bonds, you would not have to pay any tax on it.
State, federal, and local.
Correct, ma'am?
So it's 9 million for the Valent and 3 point.
And that's for how it's divided out. Do you have those figures,
Oh,
Kathy?
you know, I didn't bring,
Well, I've seen different, I've seen
and I
out
don't-
here
I
now,
don't work on that, Jeff.
And-
That's.
The financial plan.
and this out here I've seen lower too.
Jeff.
And then there's also the fact that when we go out, when Tom was here, we were gonna go out for bids on equipment and hopefully save 900
Almost $1
or
million.
a million plus on that, so
But
those numbers are all in
Right.
flux right now, I think.
you know, Betty, as you know, you try to get the maximum amount, just, you know, you can borrow anything under that.
Sure.
And I'm not sure exactly how it's being broken out in Northland Securities. That's kind of their thing. But the cost for the two projects, I think it was about that 12 million. And then there's a little bit of there was a little bit of switching for the conservation building.
Okay.
I think Barb said that because of some of the way there were some extra expenses, so the proceeds for the conservation building, she needs to reimburse those accounts. So I think there's a little bit expected to be in there for that, but not,
The lion's share of it is directed to the BBC project,
Right.
which will be, that particular aspect of debt for the county will be serviced by redirecting their taxes as well as this special assessment district that we're gonna create to ensure that the debt payment that the county will be making will be covered with the revenue that BBC will be providing with taxes and special assessment.
So Milt, how much was the difference in the county?
Well, we were approved for 400,000, and actually, there won't be any additional
okay,
expense.
it's just a transfer.
We're actually coming in under budget. I think we'll be at about 350 to 360 when everything comes in. So there's no additional beyond what we're approved for to start with.
But you just
Just a-
needed some more money to fix
There's just a
that.
switching of where that funding is coming from, basically, rather than the last TIF from the windmills to this TIF, is my understanding of where there's not additional expense to the county as a result of the building. It's originally
Yeah, I
what we were-
didn't mean to imply that. I just-
No.
I was gonna correct that. Well, I don't want anybody thinking that, but, no, so actually, we'll be coming in a little bit under budget when everything comes in.
The the portion, you say that Valent is paying this money, this is a loan, or what is it? And that they're paying it back?
You know,
their
in
taxes?
many ways, it is really a loan deal, but it is, we are using tax increment financing as a means to allow us to do that. So it's in a urban renewal
For a
plan.
portion.
Yeah, and so that, it's basically, they are paying their tax. Sometimes, you know, when we do an economic development project, they expect all these infrastructure improvements to be made, and they want a relief on their taxes. This project has said, you know, that aspect of the project's important to us, we need it done in order to site in Mitchell County. And the negotiation is that in lieu of giving them property tax incentives directly, that they would pay their taxes and we would use their taxes to pay down the debt. We anticipate that their taxes aren't gonna quite cover our debt, and that's why we're creating a special assessment district so that we can collect additional taxes from them to service the county's debt as it relates to the BBC.
And how long will that take to service that debt?
20 years we're projecting.
Okay, does that include the interest on that?
Yes,
debt?
absolutely.
And there's 9 million, what is it, 9 or 12
There's
million?
two aspects of the project. A total of 12 between the two or thereabouts. And again, we're functioning without really having all of the exact estimates, and the project is not
And it's
like
gonna take
to bid.
20, so I think 20 years of the taxes they owe in order to pay this back? What are they paying in taxes?
Oh, no, I didn't bring
You
that
know,
file.
that is, I mean, whatever their tax payment is, then the special assessment will come in to cover the balance. So that might be a large amount, it might be a small amount, but again, we have to get the framework in place. Once the facility is actually up, we can go in and do a final
Okay,
assessment.
now let's go back to this TIP money. You have all kinds of TIP money available to cover any of this stuff?
We are, other TIP in the county does not relate to this project deal. This project is a standalone project within our existing district, so, this project, no wind turbine dollars, none of that is going to be involved in this project. It's purely their taxes and their special assessment that'll fund this debt.
These are just general obligation bonds.
They're sewer, they're actually not even general obligation. It's too bad. Jeff,
Not revenue
Jeff
bonds,
is
are they?
really,
they're sewer bonds.
yes.
They're public infrastructure bonds, so it's not general obligation.
Doesn't require anything but just action of the board to do that.
Because they're sewer bonds. Mhm.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
That means then that for 20 years, all the property taxes that Valent would be paying,
Not all, Betty,
not all,
no.
just, okay.
Just the things, you know, the schools, instructional support levies, pebbles,
Any
the,
existing debt.
any existing debt. These are new taxes. I mean, these are, because of the magnitude of the project, there is going to be a significant increase in those sort of levies to the taxing entities in the county. But yes, in terms of the levies, you know, these are new taxes we do not have today.
No, I understand that.
And so, they are going to be, until the debt is paid, obligated to those.
That's what I wanted to make
Yeah.
clear, yeah.
But there is new taxes, and there are things that cannot be included into the agreements, and so, those entities that have debt, as well as the school, will see new taxes.
The school will see new taxes.
They will see on their instructional support levy and their physical plant and
This would
equipment
be-
levy,
this
and
would
if
be
they have
Osage-
any debt.
this would be the
That
Osage
would
school.
be the Osage school, just like the St. Ansgar district saw some additional taxes when Absolute cited there, and when Gray Millers is went through expansion, so they have seen, and I'm not sure if the Beyond Pebble and instructional support levy, if Osage School District has any debt right now.
I assume a little. I assume a little, I cannot
be a
speak
little.
for sure, because I have not looked at their levies to,
Lincoln
for the,
School, I think.
That's
for
fine.
the break,
I think
breakdown.
Lincoln School was last, but
Yeah, I think the Lincoln School was the last.
Do they
one.
have
got the-
anything,
got
well,
the
did they
barn
use
thing.
local
Bus
option
barn.
sales tax
Bus
on
barn
bus
people.
barn
I
and,
don't know.
yeah, that's what I was wondering about, bus barn and weight room and that.
So I would think they'd be paying on that.
So, you know, but anything that's a debt levy or an instructional support levy or, and when you're dealing with a large project, those dollars can add up fairly quickly, because of the scale of the assessment.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Just one more question.
Sure.
Can you give me some idea when, I'm reading from the paper, and I don't get many of these meetings, the whole list of items and the expenses that you're gonna spend is gonna be all TIF money. And my question is, a year from now, or maybe 2 years from now, when you get all of this accomplished, I guess you're talking about a natural gas pipeline and some other stuff in the courthouse. What kind of indebtedness do you think the county will be at, or the TIF districts? What kind of money are we talking about? How many years of TIF revenue will it take to pay all that off?
Can't really answer that.
I'm just prepared today to talk about the
The
VBC project, that's what I'm here to discuss today.
the only one we're really
Yeah.
into right now, deep enough, I guess, is the Valent project to
Yeah,
be 20 years.
yeah.
The other stuff is,
You're talking-
maybe,
What's the total, what, $40–50 million? I don't know.
I think
Adding
it's
it all
19,
up.
I think it's 19.
Dale, it's probably under $40 million. We right now have the ability to go up to 51 million in TIF debt.
In geo debt. General obligation.
Yeah, general obligations.
Total.
Total.
And they have 19 million in outstanding.
And part of what's also happening is part of the bonds already are starting to get repaid on our first road project. And when we done our first road project, we set it up for, I believe it was a 10-year time span. We didn't try to stretch it to 20. And so, like I say, the first payment already is starting to be made. And so some of that debt is going down every year as we speak. So this will be, you know, it'll be fluctuating up and down.
Because we're also adding significant amount of tax base as well, that's also allowing the 51 to also grow every year.
Grow,
So- So it's, those are all, it's kind of a moving target as it relates to that number.
Well, it's confusing to me. Because you're saying you think at the end of it, assuming all these things that you're talking about happen, that you're gonna be at 40 million or so.
That's approximately, yes.
And, okay, the revenue from the wind turbines could be a couple of million a year, starting in 2014.
At some point in time, if I remember right, and I'm trying to go by memory here, so.
So am I.
But at some point in time, I think it gets close to 3 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. The revenue from,
And a portion, the VBC project, again, I need to keep stressing, that needs to be kept somewhat separate because that is a standalone project. While it's in this same urban renewal plan, it really is a project within, I mean, that bigger area that's, it's a standalone, it's doing its own thing. The dollars for that project are going to be directed to the infrastructure for that project, so it's not in, that debt payment is different than what's coming from the turbines.
Is BBC, is that it? Is that gonna be in a TIF district also, or?
It isn't, it had to be in a TIF district in order for us to use the tax dollars to redirect towards the debt.
And you still get revenue, even though it's in a, revenue comes from what?
Their taxes and their special assessment, that's how we're gonna service that debt.
I mean, the tax that are already on the land, or?
No,
that
the
stays.
taxes that'll be coming. The new taxes to be created when the project is built. Will service that.
Even
but
if
you're-
they're-
you're
even though it's
talking
in a
about-
tip, in a TIF district, they still pay tax.
Absolutely.
How much?
That's again what we don't know until we get our final projected assessment.
But you
And
could take the levy times, there's a
Yeah.
minimum assessment agreement that they will
they
pay
have,
on a value of no less than, I think, $10.5 million. So
Yeah.
take the current levy minus the debt, that gives you your TIF levy, multiply that, and then you'd know what we're
About what it is.
anticipating.
and then whatever that figure is, ultimately with what the county's debt is for the project, we're going to develop a special assessment to cover the balance if their taxes do not cover it. And again, and they're not getting any tax incentives on top of this.
I'm not really concerned, I'm happy that they're getting it, I want them to come like I said before, but my concern about that TIF money, is, I've said it before, is that the bulk of the money, in fact, all of it, comes from those folks, those of us who have property in the St. Ansgar and Rice Little School District. That's where it comes. If you didn't TIF it, if you didn't have it in TIF, that would go into the general fund, and about a little less than half right now would go for the schools. Schools are under, as you know, under a spending limitation, they would be required to lower everybody's property tax in those two school districts if that money was still part of the school district. And in essence, it's a huge increase in taxes for those of us who live there for the
You're
next.
absolutely wrong, you're absolutely wrong
You're
on,
wrong.
you're absolutely wrong on that part, because what's happening with the TIF is the state is backfilling the school portion. 87.5% of the school portion is being backfilled by the state of Iowa. So that is not going to, that portion is not going to affect your property taxes. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, well, first of all, when the state is bringing that money in, now we're getting state money to help us here in Mitchell County. This is a substantial portion of state money coming that is, instead of the state foolishly spending it on some project down in Des Moines, they're helping us out. Secondly of all, if property taxes are lowered, they're also lowered on the windmills itself. And so, again, we're able to use that money here in Mitchell County to benefit us all, where if the property taxes were lowered, they would have a substantial discount, and yours are not going to go down near as much as you think they are. I mean, it's not like the pot of money just comes to the rest of us and the windmills stay separate. The windmills goes down just like everybody else. They're a big player in this. We're actually able to utilize other people's tax money to our advantage in the long run, is really going to put us eons ahead of everybody else in this area for economic development. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Well,
It benefits
you're
all
wrong,
Mitchell
you're
County.
wrong about this. The state share that they pay back to backfill is about $465,000. We're losing $1.2 million. The difference between 465 and $1.2 million is the amount that the rest of us gotta pick up.
Can I ask a question, since this is not about TIF, but about this other project, which we're going off on a different subject? So Chairman, can I ask to redirect this to a different question, different subject? What is different between tax and tax exempt of these two? Can you tell me? Because I'm confused on the two of them.
Ken is easy when you kind of understand why there's two differences.
The project is split in two parts. One is the Osage wastewater treatment plant. That has a benefit well beyond just Valent, because that's going to help everybody who's served by that district. So that, the cost for that project, which I'm just throwing out rough numbers, is $4 million.
Mhm.
That can be tax exempt debt,
Gotcha.
because by code, that helps many people. The Valent pretreatment project just benefits Valent.
Okay.
So then it's taxable, because by code it has one beneficiary. I just did some quick math. I'm guessing they're gonna pay at a minimum about $260,000 to $280,000 a year in taxes. I didn't have the exact levy, I don't have the exact tip, but that's about what their tax bill will be. I mean, that's,
That makes more sense now. I wasn't sure which was exempt, which was tax exempt, so now I understand.
That's how it
Okay,
is, yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you.
They're a private organization, right?
private company.
What keeps them here for 20 years? Are they under contract?
They are, that's
That's
the
part of the
development
development
agreement
agreement.
that says that if there are default pieces, that if there's any default, they will be required to pay it back.
They go bankrupt, you don't get much.
You still have the property, you're still sitting, you're owners of the property.
But I think Dale is absolutely right that you're raising the taxes, not raising the taxes, but you could have lowered the taxes. A lot of people are on a fixed income. And when you put all this into TIF and you say redirect the money, that's kind of I like that phrase, redirect the money. But when you don't lower the taxes, you put quite a strain on people that on a fixed income.
Don, since I've been on the board, I don't think we've raised levies at all, have we?
No, I agree, but you could have lowered it.
But then you have to look at the big picture. What are we getting?
I don't know.
I mean, do we want to, I drive through a lot of counties, and a lot of counties are jealous of Mitchell County because they don't have what's going on in Mitchell County. I mean, do we want to be progressive, and do we want to move forward, or do we want to regress, I guess is the question. And to the school levy,
You move forward on the back of fixed income people.
the amount of money you get from the state it's in direct relationship to whether you're a property poor district or a property rich district. This little graph here I got from the superintendent down here shows everybody pays the $5.40 uniform levy. That goes on every bit of property in the county. Okay, now if you're a property poor district, you're not gonna collect any tax dollars. The state's gonna backfill this portion per student. If you're property rich, the school district is gonna get, that's what's gonna be, and the state will backfill less. Does that make it any clearer? Or make?
That's only part of the story, Joel, I think you know that.
And then at the top, you have to have the additional levy.
You,
You can only spend 500, what was it, 5,000 so many dollars per student per year.
6,000, yeah, 5,800.
Well, then the information I
I
got.
understand. We're getting away from what we should be talking about, I'm sure, but
Yeah, I know.
But the real issue is that currently, if this, now it's gonna take 7 years, there's a partial abatement on these wind turbines, so about 2014, you'll be at where you ought to be, I mean, where you will be that's 30% of construction costs. About $100 million of assessable valuation is what is in those wind turbines. And the school, the state backfills a portion of the uniform levy of about 87% of that, $5.40. And that's about $460,000 to $470,000. Okay, but if it was in the school district, if it was all there, those schools, the two schools would be getting $1.2 million. So
Can they spend
we're
the
not
money?
getting that, but the state's backfilling $470,000. The difference between $470,000 and $1.2 million exhibits a tax increase for every property owner in those two school districts whose property is not exempt, which is most of us. We're talking $700,000 to $800,000 every year. For 20 years, you're talking $20 million or so, or 18 million, I don't know what it is, but it's a lot of money. And you're saying, it doesn't cost anybody anything. You're wrong.
Would you have had to raise our taxes to fix our roads,
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
had we not utilized TIF? My
Absolutely.
understanding, I was here many meetings when we first started talking about this, and there was discussions of what was gonna have to be done with our roads if we didn't identify a funding vehicle to perhaps get those corrected. So when we say that I look at what the increase would have been, and while I can appreciate our homeowners, I have to answer to our industries that are trying to remain competitive in a worldwide marketplace. And the ability that we were able to, and lucky enough that we happen to be located where we are in Iowa. I mean, I think at some point in time, somebody needs to understand what it would have cost all of us as taxpayers in this county to improve our roads and bridges, that $19 million, what it would have meant to us if we would have had to go out and use traditional funding sources, and how that would have raised every one of our levies in order to get that done. And
My problem is that you folks, whoever live in Osage, you don't have to pay that. We're paying it from St. Ansgar and Riceville. I agree with general obligation bonds, and I believe in everybody paying their share. I think it should be that way. If we do something with the courthouse, that means people in Osage pay the same as people in St. Ansgar and Riceville and Statesville and McIntyre. But my farmland is 20 miles away from here, and you're going to say I should pay extra taxes for whatever you're going to do here in Osage.
But aren't the
Yeah, Leo, I
lion's
don't wanna
share of
pay
the
for a brand
roads?
new road by
Yeah.
your house.
Yeah.
What, you didn't come to town here and pay my special assessment for my pavement. Did you wanna do that too?
I don't know how to,
No, all right, see, we did it,
hey, you're switching the subject now.
no, no,
I
you're
think-
you're
I
saying
think the
general obligation
Osage-
bonds, that's,
You've
you're
always done
talking
it
to
this
me.
way. The cities have always done it for their own streets. I don't know how you do it all, but we're talking about
Special assessment.
something else, right? You're talking, this is not a special, you're taking all of the money that is generated from these $100 million worth of accessible valuation. They cost $330 million to build. They're all in St. Ansgar and Riceville. And all that revenue for schools. I won't even argue about the portion that the counties use, because there's some fairness to that.
How much revenue are people receiving having all those wind turbines on their properties each year? Where's that revenue going?
It's going in my pocket, those that I have, but
Yeah,
I
how
pay,
many do you
but I
have?
still pay
Taxes,
How many
taxes.
do you have?
5. It has nothing to do with it. The county could have $1 million, the county
Goes
would
in your
have,
pocket,
the
yeah.
county's generating $2.5 million, and you're giving it all away.
Well, Dio, I think we're doing a lot of good things for Mitchell County.
Well,
And I'll go back to that same, do you wanna regress or do you wanna progress?
And the thing about the gas line is that is going to be a revenue producer again. And the gas that's going to be flowing through it, we're going to get a transportation charge. And when it's said and done, we're going to own part of a $21 million asset that will be revenue producing each and every year. And so, again, we cannot get new industry to come here if we do not have the ability to provide natural gas. Industry is not going to do it. We, again, are thinking long-term, we're thinking outside of the box, we're planning on how can we be the most competitive here in North Iowa, and we will be. We will be steps ahead, eons ahead of all of these other counties because of the planning that we're doing today. Is it going to necessarily help me in 20 years? No, I very well will be pushing up daisies. But we also have to be looking for the future. We can't always be just planning for the day and not looking for the future. And I think that's one of the things that I really have to commend this board on, is that we're not just looking for today. How do we get by today? We're looking at what's happening 10, 15, 20 years from now to try to make this a much better county than all of the surrounding counties. And I think we ought to be commended for it, not put down for it.
well, in the last 10 years, this county lost 365 students graduating in our schools, like all the other North Iowa counties. That's about more than $6,000 per student. What is it? Between Riceville and St. Ansgar and Osage, 365 students fewer than we had in 2001 or 2002. It's the same through all North Iowa. I don't know what we can do about that. We know, and
Well, part of the
Mitchell
problem-
County is no
Part
better
of the
off, no
problem-
worse than anybody else.
Part of the problem is, in our county, is, first of all, the Mennonites don't utilize our school system. The Amish don't utilize our school system. And we have how many people now homeschooling? We got three big issues there that if all three of those would be utilizing our school, I would hate to even try to venture how many scores of more students would be in the school system. I mean, this is something I can't change, but we have been able to bring in 300 and some new jobs, factory jobs, in the last few years, or they will be coming with the Valent thing. I think over 360 new jobs have been created in the last 5 to 6 years. I mean, this is a tremendously good thing when you look at the other counties around us. They're not even coming close to what we're doing.
I'm in favor of
Well-
that. I'm in favor of all that. My problem is that you're taking all this money out of.
Dale, we have to have something to work with. We can't do it with thin air.
You never had it in the first place.
That's right.
Joel,
You never had it in the first place.
Joel, if you were working for someone here in Mitchell County, and they paid you $50,000 a year, you're a good guy and you're good, and your boss calls you in.
I'll sign up, deal, where do I go?
Boss goes, Joel, I like what you've done, you're good for us, I'm gonna give you a $25,000 a year increase in salary. And 2 months later, when you don't see it in your check, you go to the boss, and well, the boss says, I'm paying it, but the county supervisors found a way to tip that salary increase and use it for economic development. But tell Joel, he didn't miss it, because he got the same money he got last year.
No, Dale?
That's not what I
Say,
said.
Dale?
That's not how it works.
Dale, back in 2002, the county went ahead and we passed an ordinance that allowed the windmill people to have a choice on how they were going to pay their property tax. If the county would not have done this, all of those taxes from the windmills would have gone to the state of Iowa. Those windmills would have, yes, you look this up. Those windmills, all sitting here in Mitchell County, none of that tax money would have been coming to Mitchell County. We passed the ordinance that allowed the 30%, and it was up to then the windmills themselves to choose. Do they want to pay it to the state of Iowa, down in Des Moines, or do they want to pay it here?
They have to send
You look it
to
up.
the assessor.
We done that. That was our initiative, and that is why we are having some of the success that we are having.
I talked,
No, you look it up. Ordinance 2002.
but did it say that the county has to put into a TIF district, or just put in general fund? I talked to the attorney in Houston 3 years ago. I couldn't understand, they're paying the money, and it's going into a TIF district. And I said, why don't you just pay it, as you're getting no benefit from this, why just let it go into the general fund? This is the attorney in Houston, this is what she told me. She said, well, we talked with your supervisor, Stan Walk, and your economic development director, Brenda Dreyer. She's speaking from her notes, she's the attorney there. He said, they told me that if we'd let that money in the regular general fund, the schools would have so much money they wouldn't know what to do with it all. Okay, so when you came to talk to me a month or so later at my home, you told me the same thing. And then I talked to Chuck Peterson at St. Enterprise, and he said, yeah, Stan told me that too. If we left the money in the general fund, schools would have so much money, they wouldn't know what to do with it all. The fact is, the schools got no more money. They get the same as they get if they're not, because the schools are required, because of spending limitations, to reduce their levy. And if they need more money, they just add it to the levy every year to get the money that's coming to them, the money that the state doesn't pay.
And my statement would have been is that our school districts are controlled by how much they can spend per people. That's what my message always is that.
That's all.
I mean, I wish I could say all of this economic development means great, great things for our school districts. They are still controlled by the state of Iowa by how much they can spend. The biggest thing we can do in economic development is do our best to bring new jobs and keep the jobs we have, so that there is some hope because families have less kids. That's the other thing we can't do anything about. You had lots of children and I mean, nowadays people have a couple children, not 6 kids, you know. So we need to be constantly recruiting in new people that have kids. We're blessed with a population that likes to stay here once they retire. So we have an aging population. The best thing we can do in economic development is create opportunities for young families to move here and take jobs here. But because the state tells our school districts what they can spend, it really, new investment doesn't really help them out a lot. And we've already got a nice tax base, we already have very rich farmland, we're collecting a lot of taxes in our school districts. And,
Yes.
The fact is that all states
Yeah.
limit the Supreme Court 30, 40, 50 years ago
Yes.
dictated that
Yes.
every student is equal to equal educational priority or
That's their way of tracking
yeah.
that.
The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that, and so
Yes.
every state has some kind of a formula
Yeah.
to make sure that happens.
And so that's what.
And so that's why we have a $6,000 limit, because
Yep.
that's all they can charge in
Spend.
Urbandale.
So that's what I would say is that,
Everybody is treated the same.
yeah, that in all reality.
So the state didn't have any choice, they had to do that, didn't they?
I guess I'd like to
Okay.
make one remark, if I might.
Go ahead, Betty.
You know, the economic development that happens in Osage is really, or in St. Ansgar, or in Riceville, is really benefiting people all over the county. You know, if it weren't for jobs in Osage, and I came from Riceville, and I remember Smitty saying in the paper, we always have to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, Osage gets everything. You know what? People from Riceville come to Osage to work, people from Osage go to Riceville, people from St. Ansgar come to Osage, people from Osage go to St. Ansgar. We all benefit one another, and I wish that we somehow could get off this, and like I say, I came from Riceville, but the mentality that Osage gets everything, and, you know, and we don't get anything, because it's not true. Every community has aspects that benefit, I think,
You're
the
right,
entire.
Betty, it's regionalism,
You know?
and something like 55% of the people that work here in Mitchell County come from outside the county to work here. Over
I mean,
half, that's
I'm
over
pretty
half.
proud of the economic
And
development.
if the economic development wasn't that good here,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be coming here.
But this is huge.
But anyway, we're getting way
Yeah,
off of
way
the,
off the-
we're going
yeah.
way around the subject here today. And we could be here till midnight discussing TIF deal. I understand where you're coming from, that we didn't have a different plan to fix your roads up by your farm, so we went with that. We're here for the public hearing on the General Obligation County Purpose Loan Agreement of approximately, what is it, $12,750,000? $12,750,000. Is there any further discussion? I'll close this portion of the public hearing, 10:10. I'll go down to short breath. Item 10 is resolution taking additional action to enter into a loan agreement and authorizing the use of preliminary official statement in connection therewith.
Do you have a resolution number for that loan?
826-12.
So moved.
826-12, a motion by Stan.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. The resolution taking action, resolution 826-12, taking action, additional action to enter into a loan agreement and authorizing the use of preliminary official statement in connection therewith. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Volklander.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried. Item 11 is a resolution setting a date for a public hearing on designation of the expanded Mitchell County urban renewal area and non-urban renewal plan amendment.
We have to date
How
on
many
that?
dates?
Well, John sent those documents,
June 19th?
is the public hearing. there were some blanks, so they are filled in. With the exception of, Stan, I was going off the top of my memory on which lot we were adding in St. Ansgar. And I had lot 2 and 3 instead, it's lots 3 and 4 when I talked to Ivan.
Okay.
So this amendment allows the additional property, and please turn to Exhibit A, to make sure we have the rights of way of US Highway 218 from the Minnesota border through the intersection of 465th Street, is that correct? Okay. And then lots 3 and 4 for the secondary road shed. So the other actions we'll need, and I went in to ask Mark and he was on the phone, but of course, we'll need to have this brief document go in front of planning and zoning, and then we'll have to have a consultation hearing. In the documents, Lowell, when John and I were chatting about what property might be added, we were under the misunderstanding it was all of 218. So he included Osage and Riceville. We do not need to notify them. They only need to notify St. Ansgar. So. And
I
there's
want
no.
to see, I want to talk to you before you leave.
Okay, yep. And so there is no taxable additional property being added except the property that will be, in the industrial park. So we'll need those 2 dates set also.
The date for, you got 2 dates, June 12th, 19th, and
No, we need, I don't know when you want to set the consultation hearing. There wasn't a date in there,
No,
was
there
there?
wasn't.
Yeah. Or when you want to set the planning and zoning meeting.
Now, that would be more
Right. So
Ross.
they are not required as part of this resolution, but just those are 2 steps we'll have to
Okay.
make sure we have.
So a resolution setting a date for a public hearing on this expanded urban renewal is June 19th, is that correct, Lowell?
Correct. Need to set a time.
9:30.
Check.
June 19th, okay. Make it 9:30.
I make that motion.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve the date of June 19th at 9:30 a.m. for the public hearing on designation of the expanded Mitchell County urban renewal area and urban renewal plan amendment. Roll call vote, Volkwagen.
Aye.
Walk,
Aye.
Ralph, aye. Motion carried.